Welcome to Funimation 3D. Have you ever stood in the kitchen and watched a pot of water while it heats up? At first, it looks calm and sleepy. Then, you start seeing tiny bubbles on the bottom. A little later, bigger bubbles rise up like they're riding invisible elevators. And finally, the water goes wild, bubbling, popping, and steaming like it's throwing a loud, splashy party. Have you ever wondered, what are those bubbles? Are they air? Are they magic? Are they tiny fish saying hello? Let's find out, because the real answer is even cooler than a trick. First, let's talk about what boiling means. Boiling is what happens when water gets hot enough that it starts changing from a liquid into a gas. That gas is called steam or water vapor. So boiling is not just hot water. Boiling is water transforming, like a superhero changing into a new form. Now imagine water is made of teeny tiny pieces called molecules. You can't see them, but they are always there, moving around. When water is cold, these water molecules move slowly. They are like sleepy dancers swaying gently. But when you add heat, you give the water molecules more energy. Heat is like handing out tiny energy snacks. With more energy, the water molecules start moving faster. They wiggle more. They bump into each other. They get excited, like dancers hearing their favorite song. Let's do a fun mini scenario. Imagine you're helping make noodles. You pour water into a pot. You put the pot on the stove. At first, nothing much happens. The water looks still. But underneath, the water molecules are waking up. The heat from the stove travels into the pot and into the water. The molecules start moving faster and faster. It's like the music in the dance room is getting louder. Soon, you might notice tiny bubbles forming on the bottom and sides of the pot. Have you ever wondered why the bubbles start down there? The bottom of the pot is closest to the heat, so the water down there gets energy first. But here's a funny secret. At the very beginning, some of those tiny bubbles are not steam yet. They are often small bits of air that were already mixed into the water. Water can hold tiny amounts of dissolved air, like invisible fizz. When the water warms up, that air likes to escape, so it forms little bubbles and floats up. It's like the air is saying, "It's getting warm in here, I'm out." But then, as the water gets hotter, something even more amazing happens. The bubbles become water vapor bubbles. That means the bubbles are made of water that has turned into gas. Yes, the bubbles are water, just in a different form. They are not air bubbles anymore. They are water vapor bubbles. They are tiny escape artists. So how does a water vapor bubble form? When water molecules get enough energy, some of them break away from the liquid and become gas. Gas wants more space than liquid. It wants to spread out. Inside the pot, these gas water molecules gather together and make a bubble. You can imagine them whispering, "Let's team up, let's escape," and suddenly, pop! A bubble is born. Now, why do bubbles rise to the top? Bubbles rise because gas is lighter than the surrounding liquid water. Think of it like this. The bubble is like a tiny balloon in a swimming pool. The water pushes it upward. Up, up, up it goes, riding the bubble elevator toward the surface. When the bubble reaches the top, it pops. Have you ever watched bubbles pop and wondered what happens to them? When a water vapor bubble pops, the gas inside it escapes into the air. That escaping gas is steam, also called water vapor. Sometimes you can see steam as a white, cloudy mist above the pot. But here's another fun secret. The real water vapor gas is invisible. The cloudy stuff you see is often tiny droplets of liquid water that formed when the vapor cooled a little in the air. It's like the steam is wearing a fluffy costume so your eyes can notice it. Now let's talk about the big moment, when water is truly boiling. Boiling happens at a specific temperature. For most people at sea level, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, which is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That number is like a special boiling point badge. When water reaches that temperature, bubbles can form all through the liquid, not just at the edges. The water is getting enough energy everywhere to create water vapor bubbles fast and often. That's when you see rolling, strong bubbling that doesn't stop. Have you ever wondered why boiling looks so powerful? Like the water is jumping? That's because tons of bubbles are forming, rising, and popping all the time. The water molecules are moving fast. The bubbles push the water around. The surface keeps breaking and splashing. It's like a super busy dance floor with dancers bumping and spinning everywhere. Let's go back to the noodle pot. At first, you saw a few tiny bubbles. Then you saw more bubbles and some gentle movement. Then the water became louder and more active. That whole time, the heat kept giving energy to the water molecules. And once the water hit its boiling point, the energy party became non-stop. The water started turning into steam much faster. But here's a question. If you keep the stove on, does the water temperature keep rising higher and higher? When water is boiling, it usually stays around its boiling point temperature while it turns into steam. The heat energy is being used to change the water from liquid into gas. It's like the energy is being spent on the transformation, not just on making the water hotter. That's why boiling is such a special change. Have you ever wondered why a kettle whistles or makes noise? When water boils in a kettle, steam builds up and rushes out of a small opening. The moving steam can make sounds, like air blowing through a tiny instrument. It's another clue that water is changing into vapor. So let's make the answer super clear. What are those bubbles in boiling water? At first, some bubbles can be air escaping. But when the water is boiling, the main bubbles are water vapor bubbles. They are made of water that has changed from liquid into gas. They rise because gas is lighter than liquid, and they pop at the top to release steam. Next time you see boiling water, you can imagine a whole world of tiny dancers inside. The heat is the music, the molecules are the dancers, the bubbles are the escape pods, and the steam is the grand exit, floating into the air like a magical, invisible dragon breath. If you enjoyed this bubbly science adventure, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Funimation 3D for more fun, simple stories that explain how your amazing world works. See you next time.